This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Today's video is sponsored by Ground News. In just a minute, I'm going to talk very briefly about an offer exclusive to my audience, and really, their product is right in the wheelhouse for my channel. Before I do, though, I want to kind of intro the topic that I'm going to talk about today, and that is the fact that the continued hijacking, the continued transition of the Republican Party into a full-blown fascist outfit is continuing. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who in a headline from The Independent yesterday that I was going to talk about and didn't end up talking about it, The Independent, we're the leaders, they follow us, Matt Gaetz tells Marjorie Taylor Greene as pair weigh in on Liz Cheney and America Last Media. That's not the article specific that I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about her attack of AOC, or her accosting of AOC right off the House floor, which is a derivation of how things work on the Hill. You may think that things are contentious and fighting all the time and they don't like each other. That's not typically how it works on Capitol Hill. Typically how it works is my friend across the aisle, the gentlewoman from Georgia, the gentlewoman from New York. It's that kind of a thing to keep decorum, to keep a sense of order and propriety in our governance. Well, that's not her deal, because she's a wingnut. Anyway, I'm going to talk about this article from the Washington Post. Representative Greene aggressively confronts Representative Ocasio-Cortez, causing New York Congresswoman to raise security concerns. That's what I'm going to talk about today. And before I get into it, again, I want to talk about a sponsor of the channel, which is an absolute in the wheelhouse, Ground News. There is strength in diversity. I've said it a million times. The best theories and the best thinkers are the ones that have approached their subject matter from all angles, incorporating the viewpoints of others into their own thinking. With the Dollemore Daily, I do, admittedly, have a bias, but I am constantly challenging my ideals, honing my understanding of a story or topic by collecting as much information as I can find. This is a work in progress that has taken me from being a rank-and-file Republican through to some semblance of libertarianism and into the land of the blue. Because I'm a Democrat, but I have only achieved that resolve through challenging views that I once held on high. Ground News is an important new tool for challenging your perspective on a current topic. An apolitical news comparison platform. Ground News empowers readers with an immense library of more than 50,000 news outlets from all over the world and across the political spectrum. I mean, it was founded by a former NASA engineer, so you gotta know they've done their homework. The app enables you to test your grasp of a given story by presenting you with a full array of sources reporting on the story, making it easier to see the full picture. The game changer is their news blind spot feature, which enables you to check your own blind spot and see stories that aren't being reported by one side of the political spectrum, stories that you would otherwise miss inside your bubble. Ground News allows you to see a story from all its angles so you can better inform your conclusions. Awareness of our differences is ultimately what will unite us. Awareness will make us all stronger. Strengthen your perspective by considering the perspective of others. Click on my link in the description below, ground.news/Dollemore, to download the free Ground News app and see what the future of news looks like. So let's get into this. This Washington Post headline this story in general is remarkable because two Washington Post reporters witnessed what took place. They watched it go down. Her antics prior to becoming a congresswoman, a duly elected representative of roughly 500,000 Americans, she's carrying on the same pattern and practice of harassment, of insanity, of far right-wing, both racism, white supremacy, conspiracy theories. It's the same. Reading from the article, again, headline, Representative Greene aggressively confronts Representative Ocasio-Cortez, causing New York Congresswoman to raise security concerns. Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene aggressively confronted Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on Wednesday and falsely accused her of supporting quote-unquote terrorists, leading the New York Congresswoman's office to call on leadership to ensure that Congress remains a safe, civil place for all members and staff. Now, before I continue here, it is rich that Marjorie Taylor Greene would complain about support of terrorists with in the rearview mirror so soon after the January 6th terrorist attack, insurrection of the United States Capitol. The short memories on these idiots never ceases to amaze me. Continuing in the article, 2 Washington Post reporters witnessed Ocasio-Cortez exit the House chamber late Wednesday afternoon, ahead of Greene, who shouted, "Hey, Alexandria," twice in an effort to get her attention. When Ocasio-Cortez did not stop walking, Greene picked up her pace and began shouting at her and asking her why she supports Antifa, a loosely knit group of far-left activists, and Black Lives Matter, falsely labeling them terrorist groups. Greene also shouted that Ocasio-Cortez was failing to defend her quote-unquote radical socialist beliefs by declining to publicly debate the freshman from Georgia. Quote, "You don't care about the American people," Greene shouted. "Why do you support terrorists and Antifa?" I mean, there's no need for an explanation here. There's no need for me to say, there should not be a need. Let's change my verbiage here. There should not be a need for me to say Black Lives Matter as an organization is in no way a terrorist organization. Antifa, you may not like their tactics. I oftentimes do not. They're not a terrorist organization. They're fighting fascism. They are anti-fascism. If you out there watching me are anti-fascism, you're Antifa. You might not be as readily, might not bring a fist to somebody's head as readily as Antifa. The loose group, it's not even an organization. Anyway, continuing on, Ocasio-Cortez did not stop to answer Greene, only turning around once and throwing her hands in the air in an exasperated motion. The 2 reporters were not close enough to hear what the New York Congresswoman said, and her office declined to discuss her specific response. Quote, Representative Greene tried to begin an argument with Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez when Representative Ocasio-Cortez tried to walk away. Congresswoman Greene began screaming and called Representative Ocasio-Cortez a terrorist sympathizer. Just off the floor of the House of Representatives of these United States, MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is calling another congressperson a terrorist sympathizer because they advocate for social justice. That is what this is. An actual terrorist sympathizer, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is again doing what Republicans do and projecting their guilt onto someone else. Ocasio-Cortez spokeswoman Lauren Hitt said in a statement, "We hope leadership and the Sergeant-at-Arms will take real steps to make Congress a safe, civil place for all members and staff, especially as many offices are discussing reopening." One member has already been forced to relocate her office due to Congresswoman Greene's attacks, and that would be Cori Bush. Before walking away, Greene said that the encounter was intended to hold Democrats accountable for their policy proposals, because it's her job to hold Democrats accountable by yelling and screaming, attacking, accosting, whatever you want to put on it. This dumb shit. And I'm going to get into exactly why I call her a dumb shit. because she is a nutter butter. I will finish this quote from Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's a chicken. She doesn't want to debate the Green New Deal, she said to a small group of reporters and onlookers near the entrance to the chamber. These members are cowards. They need to defend their legislation to the people. That's pathetic. One, there is no legislation of the Green New Deal. It is a policy proposal. There is no legislation, dummy. Let's talk about just what kind of a dumb shit she is. This is the woman, I've done a video about this. Hopefully I can find the thumbnail and put it up here. A lot of times, people have issue with me labeling conservatives and Republicans white supremacists. They don't like that I charge people with racism. They think it's premature or often not done appropriately. While I disagree, it is absolutely appropriate in this case. Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to start the America First Caucus with Paul Gosar, an avowed white supremacist. And read a little about, plan to start something called the America First Caucus with Representative Paul Gosar. A flyer promoting the new caucus said it would strive for a uniquely Anglo-Saxon political traditions and infrastructure that befits the progeny of European architecture. It also warned of the threat that quote-unquote foreign citizens supposedly pose to American unity. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Not just a white supremacist, also a stupid individual. More racist stuff is that black people, quote, are held slaves to the Democratic Party. Yeah. She has contended that Representative Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, that they are not officially congresswomen because they took their oath of office on the Quran and not the Bible. She has said that they represent an Islamic invasion into our government offices. Two Muslims being elected, duly elected, legally elected, that represents an invasion into our government offices. That is, to call it xenophobic is just not doing it justice. That is racist. That is white supremacist talk. She, like I said, argued that they weren't really official members of Congress because they didn't take the oath of office on the Bible. They're both Muslim. She is quoted as saying, I really want to go talk to these ladies and ask them what they are thinking and why they are serving in our American government. They should really go back to the Middle East. Or Rashida Tlaib was born in Detroit. She's not a naturalized American citizen. She's born here. And Ilhan Omar famously was a refugee from Somalia, a citizen. You can't be in Congress if you're not a citizen. She is a citizen of the United States of America. And just because Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't like it, doesn't matter. And this claim that they're not legally congresswomen, they're not legally members of Congress because they swore their oath on the Quran and not the Bible, is nonsense. Obviously, constitutional expert, this woman who swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, Marjorie Taylor Greene, doesn't understand the very document she swore an oath to protect and defend. Article 6, Section 3 of the Constitution. The senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. And here's where it gets good, Marjorie Taylor Greene. But no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. No religious test, you idiot. You bigot. She famously claimed, moving right along, we got a list here. She famously claimed that George Soros was a Nazi collaborator. George Soros was born in 1930. Was he collaborating with Nazis as a little kid? Absolute idiot. You've heard about her Jewish space lasers thing. The Jews have lasers stationed in space that were firing on California that started wildfires here where I live in California. She has said that school shootings, the myriad school shootings around the country, are a fake, false flag operation meant to gin up support for gun control. She suggested in an online video that Nancy Pelosi could be executed for treason. She, quote, she's a traitor to our country. She's guilty of treason, Greene says in a video, which CNN first reported, and it's a crime punishable by death is what treason is. Nancy Pelosi is guilty of treason. She also liked a January 2019 Facebook post that called for a bullet to the head of Nancy Pelosi. This is where we are. This is the continued hijacking. And look, again, it's like I talked about yesterday with Liz Cheney. It's not a defense of Liz Cheney. I'm not defending the Republican Party. I'm not mourning the loss of the Republican Party. But if one of the two major parties in the United States in our political system goes this way, full fascist, there's no stopping. We are at risk of losing our country. We're at risk of losing what we have, of who we are as a nation. Because the party of Trump is something dangerous. We witnessed that over the course of the last 4 years. And now that Matt Gaetz, the credibly accused child rapist, is saying that they follow us. We're the leaders, he says. He and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and presumably Lauren Boebert, Paul Gosar, Scalise, another bad one. But Scalise from Louisiana, who's like the number 2 Republican in the House, said once that he's just like David Duke without all the baggage. He's the number 2 Republican in the House of Representatives. And Kevin McCarthy, dumb guy extraordinaire, sits on his hands and does nothing. He goes down to visit with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. The Republican Party stroking the weak ego of Donald Trump. The insecurity on parade. And the Republican Party serves to salve his sensitivities about being a loser. That's what it is. Anyway, I would love to know what you think. You can call, leave me a voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me daily at dollemore.com. I would love to hear from you, especially if you dissent. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to see you follow me on social media. Connect with me there. You can reach out on, more appropriately on Twitter, but Instagram works too. We are in tenuous times. I need to get my stuff together and do a more in-depth video about Donald Trump taking over the Republican Party, continuing to hijack, because it needs to be talked about. Before I leave, follow me on my podcast. If this isn't enough, if my almost daily videos aren't enough, you can subscribe to I Doubt It, my podcast with my lovely and talented and beautiful co-host, Brittany Page. I'm motioning toward her desk, not toward her, because it is 5 a.m. and she's not awake. Anyway, I love you guys. I appreciate you. I would appreciate if you would consider supporting my work here on the platform for as little as $2 a month. You can click the join button, become a channel member, help produce this independent analysis and commentary, sometimes more fired up than others, on the news. I love you guys. I will see you next time. Until I do, be genuine and please take care of one another.